Hi, I'm Sean.
I'm Rhonda.
We need to make a emotional connection with our spouse when they're sharing an important issue with us.
So once the speaker has presented the issue well, and you're bouncing back and forth, the listener needs to repeat back what was said. So that would be connecting with the words, but you also want to include the feeling behind the spouse's words to the extent you can.
So the listener is not going to be presenting their side of the issue, and because that's not what it is at hand to be talked about.
It's important, but it's not your turn right now. So save it to be presented at another time so that you can focus on the issue at hand.
So we want to keep on working with the one that's presenting the issue until we fully understand what's being communicated.
You know, we can ask, it sounds like you're pretty upset. What did you feel when that happened?
You know, sometimes we can be in such a hurry to move on past the issue that we really don't take time to explore what's going on with our spouse and what they felt about the issue.
Yeah, you know, the listener can ask questions to connect and understand the speaker. Remember, it's not the listener who it should have that feeling of connection right now. It's the speaker.
You know, sometimes we can have something that needs to be said, like, what is it I'm doing that comes across negatively to you? And
or
when does this typically happen?
Right. Or how does this make you feel? And why do you think you feel this way?
So make sure that you're really open to hear your spouse, what your spouse is saying, to make adjustments to avoid making negative impacts in the future.
And this is difficult for some people to hear. They get offended instead. And it's like, you know, if I'm doing something that has a negative impact on our relationship, I want to know so I can improve it. But honestly, sometimes we hear from couples and you would think, no, I don't want to know. I just want to keep doing these things even though they bother you. We should care.
Yeah, and sometimes our spouse is going to come across in a more intense way about something that's really impacting them. So while the intensity needs to be adjusted,
Certainly.
we can also connect with that intensity by understanding that this is something that's very important to them.
Because if we don't, we kind of minimize it. Like, it's not that big of a deal. But it's like, wow, this is really challenging for you. But we need to apologize if we did anything that had a negative impact. You know, if I step on your toes in the church lobby, I didn't mean to do it, but I would apologize because I caused some form of discomfort. And so we have to realize that when these things happen, it's not that somebody intentionally did something bad. It's that somebody else had a negative impact because of something I did, hopefully accidentally.
Right. So asking our spouse, you know, how well do you feel like I connected with you over the issue you presented, and let them let us know. You know, you either did a good job or, you know, it was so-so.
What do you need to feel heard and understood right now? What do you need to hear from me? Because we have to be okay with coaching our spouse to get to that point. They can't just imagine what you need to feel heard and understood. Well, what I really need to hear from you right now is...
You know, there's some great verses like Galatians chapter 6 and verse 1 that says, if a person is in a fault, you that are spiritual, restore such a one in a spirit of meekness. So being able to do something, the manner in which we restore a person is really important.
And I think that meekness or gentleness is huge here. When we have these conversations, they should be gentle.
You know, if your brother sins against you, go and show him his fault just between the two of you. If he listens to you, you've won your brother over in Matthew 18.
You know, we don't want to go and be sharing what's going on between us with everybody else. Our spouse isn't going to want to open up to us if that's the case.
And also in Matthew chapter 5, he said, if you're offering your gift at the altar and there remember your brother has something against you, leave your gift there at the altar and go first be reconciled to your brother, then come and offer your gift.
You know, if this is happening, and this is the case in the church body between brothers and sisters in the Lord, how much more in the depth of relationship of the marriage? And so God is saying, if there's a problem there, go fix it. Another thing is, he who answers before listening, that's folly and shame. Proverbs 15:28. it's important to really fully hear out our spouse.
I love this one in James chapter 1. He says, "Let every man be quick to hear, slow to speak, and slow to wrath." Notice all these
Wow.
verses are
Yeah.
pointing out ways of communication, ways of presenting, changes that we need to make in our presentation. Another verse is in 2 Timothy chapter 2, "The Lord's servant must not quarrel, but be kind to everyone, able to teach, and not resentful."
That's huge for the marriage. Not entering into quarreling. I'm not going to argue.
Yeah.
If we can speak back and forth in a dialogue, we can continue this discussion.
Not having an attacking or defensive kind of demeanor about us.
But being kind in our presentation, in the way that we speak to each other. I think of the able to teach and not resentful. We don't monologue, but when invited, we want to share ourselves. We want to be able to coach our spouse, and we're not getting into resentment here or bitterness toward each other.
And in Ephesians chapter 4, he says, "Speak the truth in love." The way that we present something is so important. All these things that we've shared with you today are focusing on how well we're presenting, how well we're hearing, changes that we need to make. So think about, what changes could you make to have a better communication experience with your spouse?